Unthinking respect for authority is the greatest enemy of truth. That's a quote, people. Unthinking respect for authority is the greatest enemy of truth. And it was by a German-born theoretical physicist that many of you may have heard of. His name, Albert Einstein. Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Paul on the Plain Live, where each week here on Truth Frequency Radio, my guests and I explore the current and evolving flat earth theories that continuously are getting us closer and closer to understanding the true nature of the realm that we call Earth. Thanks to the truth-seeking communities who test, observe, and publish their findings for the world to consider. This is Paul on the Plain Live, episode number 55, and it is Tuesday, the 21st of May, 2019. Thank you all so much for joining me, whether you're listening on Truth Frequency Radio or over on iHeartRadio. This show has been pre-recorded, as I'm unable to do the show live tonight because of some traveling that I'm doing. And those of you who listen to the podcast that Mitchell from Australia and I, that we record every week, which is called Dome Life, you know what's going on there. We've been talking about it. So if you haven't checked out the podcast yet, please do so. You can go to domelifepodcast.com, or it's right on my website as well, potp.net. Regardless, I've got an awesome show planned for everyone here on another subject, and on another subject that I would like to know a lot more about, which is why I have on the line with me my guest, Mr. Joe Hill. And Joe, how this all got started is it was a show or two ago, probably 2 or 3 shows ago now. I saw you in chat over on YouTube when I was simulcasting this, and the subject was the ISS, the International Space Station, and you were making some comments around, from a biblical perspective, when the Bible's talking about the beast and things like that, you have been kind of putting the puzzle pieces together here, I guess. And you kind of piqued my interest about how the ISS ties into that, and that's what I wanted to talk about today. So first of all, Joe, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for talking, and this is an interesting subject because of the times we live in, I believe.
Yeah, no question at all. No question at all. So, yeah, so you kind of were making some comments there, and I hadn't heard about that yet, or that perspective yet. So you, like I said, really have piqued my interest. I'm very curious, and I want to get your perspective on this, and I really appreciate you're willing to take some time out and kind of walk me through that and sharing that with the listeners here of the show. So where would you like to begin? I mean, the one thing, again, maybe we just start right at the top, and that is, when the Bible talks about the beast, you've kind of, like I said, maybe connected the dots here, and the Bible potentially is talking about the ISS, or
yeah.
Where are we coming from here?
Well, it's in a nutshell, John, that wrote the book of Revelation, in chapter 17. I mean, this is a somewhat common knowledge, I think. He goes, an angel takes him and shows him the judgment of Babylon the Great, or Mystery Babylon. And so it's always been kind of a mystery. But in the last few years, and I got to say that it all kind of started when I started basically hearing people talking about flat earth and started learning about that. And it's become a truth to me that's beyond obvious, but that's just me. And as that happened, I also noticed some other things, and I was spending a lot of time in the book of Revelation, and I noticed a lot of things in there that seem to have manifest in our world in a way that other people didn't seem to be noticing. And even when I pointed out, a lot of times they don't seem to be able to see it. But this whole weird thing with the Mystery Babylon didn't really make any sense to me, or too much sense to me, until I read the book of Enoch and started understanding some of that. And that's kind of where those two together, John and Enoch, seem to have gone to the same place. And when they each went there, they each saw the same things, but when John went there at the end, he saw an extra thing that wasn't there when Enoch went. And so,
I see.
And that's where we end up talking about the space station, because it was wandering stars that Enoch saw 7 of. And John in Revelation 17 verse 3 is taken, this angel takes him away to show him this judgment. And he takes him away in the spirit to the wilderness. And I remember Enoch was talking about this waste and horrible place with no water and no birds that was a prison for evil spirits. And so that made it, I recognize that because of Revelation, Babylon the Great in Revelation 18 verse 2 is, it says that it became a habitation of devils and a hold for evil spirits, like a cage. And so to me, I said, okay, so there's a prison somewhere in a wilderness, and John was taken away in the spirit. So probably not, maybe physical and material like we're thinking. So Enoch 18 is where Enoch is taken there. And I can read a couple of verses out of there if you don't mind.
Yeah, by all means. So real quickly though, before I wanted to get to that, get that ready, because I think quoting right out of the book is definitely called for. And I probably should have done this at the start of the show to give you a chance. So you've got a YouTube channel, and you've been doing a lot of great stuff. And we were just talking about it a little bit before we started recording here about all the kind of the graphics work and green screen and all the stuff. So for those people out there that haven't checked out your channel, let them know where they can find you. And then also maybe you can talk a little bit about just briefly how you woke up to this reality that we don't live on a flying ball, or a spinning, orbiting, wobbling space pear.
Baseball.
Yeah, exactly.
The spaceball thing. Wow, that came to me, and I just have to be clear about this. It came to me by the Spirit of Truth, and I didn't know that as it was happening. But this truth is not one that came from me, and it didn't come from me buying a P900 and pointing it across Lake Mille Lacs either. Oh, speaking of, I forgot the first part. EFTUPWORLD. Effed Up World.
That's right. Effed Up World.
That's my YouTube channel.
And I'll make sure we put the link to that in the show notes here so everybody can see that. But your YouTube channel is Effed Up World. EFTUPWORLD. That's one word.
Yep, and that's I've had that channel for a long time. Even before I realized that we've all been living under Satan's dominion. But that's the thing that's important about flat Earth, I think, is that if a person can come to the realization that, and this would be speaking more to a person that believes in flat Earth, if they've come to this realization and they don't really understand why is this truth now, well, it's because we're at the end, and God declared this truth at the beginning when he spoke it into existence. And now at the end, Jesus said he was going to declare it again. He was going to declare, or he was going to send his sons, or call his sons and daughters to declare former things. And I believe that that's what flat Earth is about. It's the last chance for people to get eyes to see. And I think it just happens by believing in it. When you believe the truth, I think God sends his Spirit and shows you all of it. But
right on.
How I came about it is I can't really explain it to be like a YouTube video or something like that. But I mean, that was the general start of it. Was I heard it was, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, Stefan Molyneux maybe. He's got a YouTube channel, and pretty popular guy, I think. And he had a flat earther asking him some questions. Or they were kind of just having a conversation on his show. And I was listening to that while I was working. And my dad was actually in the shop with me, and my dad was listening to it. And that's how I heard it. I wasn't looking for anything. It was just on in the shop when I was there. And I noticed right then and there, I noticed there was this like a spiritual battle happening, because was saying to myself, okay, this sounds so dumb, but every single thing that this guy has said, the things he's brought up, they are actually true. So I said to myself, but I don't want to say that they're true. There's something in me saying I don't want to say that they're true. And I was watching my dad laughing and mocking at everything that was true that the guy was saying. And to me, I could see a spiritual battle happening. And right then, I think that's when I really started to understand it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think from a secular standpoint, I think we're seeing that. To kind of relate it to a spiritual standpoint like you have, from a secular standpoint, I think we're seeing it in a lot of other people as well, where what's getting their attention is not so much the topic, but the mainstream's reaction to it and the censorship.
Yes.
And they're going,
AMTV did a video on Flat Earth, and he said, I don't even believe it, or I haven't even looked into it, but it's just the fact that they're censoring it makes me want to look into it.
Exactly. Yeah. So when that suppression is coming, or you sense that conflict, even if you don't know anything about it, you're just like, well, if there's so much attention about it, good and bad, or for and against or whatever, that means there might be something there for me. And that in and of itself, I think, is getting people to look a little bit deeper into it, and then they can start looking at whether the science or the spiritual aspect or whatever, like you. But that sounds like it was something along those lines. Again, from a spiritual perspective for you personally, was like, there's something going on here, and that led you to take the next step, and not just scoff and move on and forget about it and just dismiss it. It led you into the truth.
Exactly, and it's all about honesty to me. I just think as time goes on here, it's going to be for the people who are debating and fighting against it, and the people that, for everybody, it's going to become so clearly obvious that there's this fake thing that we can believe in, but like that's where we've left that. Like I guess what I'm saying is, if you ask someone, this is like the clearest question. If you ask someone if the ground beneath their feet is rotating on its axis, and point at the ground, say, is this ground that you're standing on, is that rotating on its axis that you can tell? Is there any reason for you to believe that it's rotating on its axis? The clear answer is no, it's not rotating on its axis. It doesn't move at all. But there's something inside of the intellectual people in our world that really, they don't want to answer it that way. They have to say, relative to what? And start to use their imagination and pretend that they live in the stars and look down on the earth and stuff like that.
Yeah. The programming.
That's just me.
Just kicks in. So anyway, about when was this? About how long ago did this, this kind of spiritual awakening, whatever you want to call it, when did this happen?
I can give you a really close date. December 21st, 2015.
That's pretty exact.
And that's not necessarily the day I believed Earth was flat. That was the day that I knew that we were living out the book of Revelation.
Okay,
and that,
got it.
We can get into that a little bit. So,
and that led you into, then like you said, the Spirit leads you into all truth, right? That's
yes,
what the Bible
exactly.
says. The all truth. It doesn't just give you a little piece and that sort of thing. No, once you
John
open up
16.
your mind and open your heart, the Spirit leads you into all truth, the good book says.
And it says all. It
says all.
And then the next two verses, that was John 16:13 that you're talking about. And it says, howbeit when he, the Spirit of truth, is come, he will guide you into all truth.
Yeah, that's right.
And then the next two verses are both of the verses are about what that truth is. And what it is it says he will show, like Jesus says, he will show you all the things that are mine. And the Father gave all the things to Jesus, and I'm not trying to understand that aspect of it, but he's going to show us all the things that he knows. And so having your eyes open to the truth is not just a small thing. It is I believe that for us, for the time we're living in, because this truth has been revealed in this world, I believe that it is something possibly leading to eternal life. So that's a whole bit different topic, but I think it is significant.
It is. And there's so many different ways. This conversation. There's so many different angles we could
Yeah.
go. But I appreciate that. But I derailed your whole line of thinking. I apologize, but I'm gonna try and get you back on track here. So you were talking about John's in the Book of Revelation. John's in the Spirit. Being taken to this place, this wilderness, this prison, and you were correlating that with the Book of Enoch, and that's kind of where we left off. And so you had a couple of verses in Enoch that you were going to read to kind of set this up. So if we can get back on track, my apologies. Should have done that at the beginning of the show, just kind of set the context. But now we kind of know a little bit more about you and where you are at right now, I guess, and how this all came about. I think it's going to provide some more context. So anyway, please proceed there, sir. I apologize
so
again.
you're going to love this, because this is something that this isn't an idea that I have. I just want to preface this with that. This isn't an idea that I have or had or came up with. This is an idea that I was shocked to read about. Okay? So what I'm going to read here and point out is it's the thing that Enoch wrote thousands of years ago, and the thing that John wrote almost 2,000 years ago. These things have nothing to do with me or Paul or anything. These are right in there. It's just pointing them out. Okay, so that was my little preface thing. Okay, so this is chapter 18 of the Book of Enoch, the first Book of Enoch, and I'm just going to read verses 9 through 16. So just take a second, but listen carefully to this place where Enoch is and everything that he learns here. Verse 9, and I saw a flaming fire, and beyond these mountains is a region, the end of the great earth, where the heavens were completed. And I saw a deep abyss with columns of heavenly fire, and among them I saw columns of fire fall, which were beyond measure, alike toward the height and toward the depth. And beyond that abyss, I saw a place which had no firmament of heaven above, and no firmly founded earth beneath it. There was no water upon it, and no birds, but it was it was a waste and horrible place. Now this is important right here. I saw there 7 stars, like great burning mountains. And to me, when I inquired regarding them, the angel said, this place is the end of heaven and earth. This has become a prison for the stars and the host of heaven. And the stars which roll over the fire are they which have transgressed the commandment of the Lord in the beginning of their rising, because they did not come forth at their appointed times. And he was wroth with them and bound them till the time when their guilt should be consummated, even for 10,000 years. So basically what we learn there is this place where these 7 stars that were wandering, and that was a prison. And so when I put that to the real life sky that we live under, we have all the stars. I call them the stars of God now. They have a polar center, and they do a circle around Polaris every 24 hours, and that's just a continual thing that they do, and that goes from Polaris all the way out to the farthest in the southern hemisphere, as far as I can tell. When you're in the southern hemisphere and you're looking towards what they call the Southern Cross or whatever, when you're looking that direction, you're looking the opposite direction of the North Pole. So don't expect to see the rotation in the same direction. You're going to see the opposite. And to me, that just is plain and simple. But so these stars, these 7 stars, are these ones that they have their own orbit, and they don't care about the polar north, and they go and do their own thing, and those are the planets. Well, so I can kind of say, okay, yeah, I mean, that's what we do see in the sky. We do see these planets, and apparently they're rolling over a fire, and the deep abyss, they were beyond this deep abyss. So that I'm just going to take that for what it is. I mean, I believe that there's no firmly founded earth beneath it, and no water upon it, no birds. I believe this is talking about like space, or what NASA would maybe consider space or something. But here's where it gets a little bit interesting. The next chapter,
A little bit interesting. Like
Yeah,
the stuff you just did wasn't.
Well, yeah. This,
I'm just
like,
kidding. I'm just giving you a hard time.
It builds, and
It
all
is
these,
building.
all
Yeah.
these things that I hadn't been aware of before added to the everything that I'm learning now, and it becomes this crazy thing. So they're standing in this place, and this he sees this prison, and it's the prison for the stars and the host of heaven. That was one thing I wanted to point out. Enoch, called them mountains burning with fire.
Yeah.
So that's very important because that's going to come in Revelation. That's how we're going to know that John went that this is the same prison. But okay, and Uriel said to me, this is chapter 19, verse 1. And Uriel said to me, here shall stand the angels who have connected themselves with women, and their spirits, assuming many different forms, are defiling mankind and shall lead them astray into sacrificing to demons as gods. Jupiter, Mercury, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Here shall they stand till the day of the great judgment in which they shall be judged and they are made an end of. Now, I got to do a brief history lesson on Enoch because a lot of people listening would probably say, well, that's not true because the angels that connected themselves with women, the ones that left their first estate in Jude verses 6 and 13, that are reserved under chains in the blackness of darkness. Well, that's celestial, I'm guessing. But what this is saying is that place, that prison, that is the bottomless pit. It's right above the abyss, or I don't know exactly the location of it, but he said beyond that abyss is where he saw those 7 stars. So interesting. And then if anybody wants to kind of verify all this again, Enoch and Uriel talk about exactly this whole thing again, right in chapter 21. They cover all of it again, the mountains and everything. So Enoch saw, the basic thing I wanted to point out is Enoch went there and he saw these 7 mountains. And it was a prison for the stars that didn't come out at their proper times, and the other ones that connected themselves with women. Well, they had been buried in the earth for 70 generations, and then they were led off to this abyss of fire. So I don't know when.
That topic, being with women, reminds me of the Nephilim. And
yes,
how does it relate to that in your view?
Well, earlier on in Enoch, in chapter 10, Enoch goes, basically, the fallen angels were going to be punished or whatever, and they were the Lord was going to send the flood, and so this information got given to Noah, so that he could prepare the boat and everything, get everything ready, because God was going to cleanse the earth, and I think that was these Nephilim, these offspring from the angels that came down and took human wives. Their offspring, we find out in Enoch chapter 15, I believe, that Enoch is called up to the throne because I think he actually misspoke to the watchers, and the Lord was not in a bad way. I think he just misspoke, and the Lord straightened him out. He said, Enoch, the spirits that were born on the earth shall stay on the earth, and they'll roam without bodies, like there's evil spirits on the earth. And then he said, but the spirits of heaven, the ones that came down from heaven, their dwelling is in heaven. So that they're going to dwell in heaven. But the interesting thing to me is that doesn't mean that they're free in heaven. They're imprisoned in heaven. They're locked up. So that's my take on that prison. But
got it.
So
let's pause there.
Okay.
Let's just pause for a second, because we're coming up on commercial break, so we're going to need to pause anyway. But I just want to remind people we're talking with Joe Hill about I'm trying to figure out how do we encompass all this?
I don't even know. We're talking about, you could say Enoch and Revelation.
Enoch and Revelation and how they tie together, and the clues, by understanding each of the stories and what God showed these prophets, what can we draw from those? So please don't go anywhere. Hope you're enjoying the show so far tonight. This is Paul on the Plane live on Truth Frequency Radio, your protection from deception. We have a lot more with Joe, and we'll get into then how this ties with Revelation when we get back on the other side of the break. So please don't go anywhere. Thanks again for listening. And welcome back to Paul on the Plane Live here on Truth Frequency Radio, your protection from deception. The topic tonight is, Enoch, Revelation, prophecy. I'm going to tie this into the 7 wandering stars or stars of God and even the International Space Station. So a lot more to come here. Thanks for sticking around. Joe Hill is my guest tonight. YouTube channel is Effed Up World, EFTUP World, all one word, if you'd like to check out his work. Joe, let's just jump right back into it. So the first segment, we kind of set things up. You're kind of sharing with what Enoch saw there in chapter 18, and then some of the subsequent verses about this wilderness, this barren wasteland is what it sounds like, the way it was described, a prison, essentially, for these, I guess, these spirits.
The heavenly, the spirits of heaven, the angels that came down, I think that was in Genesis 6. Is that? Yeah, Genesis 6, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
11. It might be 11. I can't remember.
Early on, anyway.
And
Genesis. But let's then tie this in, because now it sounds like where we're going to go from here. If you listen to the first segment here and understanding what Enoch was shown, then this ties. It sounds like really nicely into then what John was shown in Revelation.
Yes, and that's what really is mind-blowing to me, is because I was really familiar with this stuff in Revelation, and that actually came, that date, December 21st, 2015, was the first time that SpaceX successfully landed a rocket after lifting Dragon up into orbit. That caught my attention because of Revelation 13, but we might get into that after if we have time. But so that's where I kind of was studying Revelation. And I was like, I'm seeing this stuff in the world. But in Revelation 17, I'll just point out a few verses. So in verse 3, John says, so he's talking about this angel that came over to him. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. The scarlet-colored beast, scarlet is like a red with a tinge of orange. Now, if you've ever looked at the space station pictures of it or anything, look at the solar arrays. They are scarlet-colored, but that doesn't prove anything or anything like that. Like we're going to learn in a minute here. So he gets a description of this beast and the woman that was riding the beast and all of this. And we're going to skip down a little bit until we get to verse 8. Well, actually, we'll just start in verse 9, because this is kind of like, I'll explain it as we go through it, I guess. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. So that
correlates with the mountains of fire.
Or it could. We don't really know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't really know. It just says that the 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. Well, that beast that John saw the woman sitting on, it had 7 heads and 10 horns. So it's saying that those 7 heads are 7 mountains. So, okay, that's fine. But then in verse 11, it says, because it's talking about this beast that Babylon is riding on, and that beast, it talks about that in verse 11. It says, and the beast that was and is not, even he is the eighth, and is of the seven, and goeth into perdition. And that's talking about the beast that came up from the bottomless pit.
Is
So
the eighth?
it's the eighth mountain.
Wow.
So if we go back to Enoch just to get a refresher, Enoch went there and he saw 7 stars of heaven that were bound there because they transgressed the commandment of the Lord. And so they're already being punished because he called them mountains burning with fire because they were rolling over this abyss of fire. Like they were being held there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so to me, I don't really understand how a planet or a star like that correlates with the fallen angels that came down. I don't really understand all that, but this right here is just amazing to me. And then it continues on. It says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings. Well, the horns that he saw, this gets really complicated, but it is something that people can look into on their own, and they can find these things out. Dragon, SpaceX Dragon, is the cargo capsule. It's the space vehicle that resupplies and brings cargo to and from the ISS. Okay,
That's right.
so that's how this is going to tie into this, because in Revelation 13, the beast that came up from the sea, the first one that he saw in Revelation 13, that one, the dragon gave that beast his power and his seat and great authority. So I said to myself, well, let's just take this really, really simply and really, really literally and say, what if John actually knew the name of the SpaceX Dragon, let's say, and what if he said, because this is a vision of what would happen at the end. So I got to remind everyone of that. This is what must come to pass. So there is a dragon that's giving what we could call the 8th mountain or the 8th wandering star, because it's on a schedule, and you can go, you can get an app on your phone to see when you can see the ISS. You go out and you can look at this little star flying over your head with precision timing. What I'm saying is, this is not a space station. This is a star. This is a fallen angel. Now, then we go, well, what about all the astronauts and all of the video and the footage and all of that? And I say, well, when God said he's going to send strong in 2 Thessalonians 2,
Yes.
When he says
delusion.
God will send strong delusion, what do you think the word strong means?
To God, strong. If God is calling something strong,
Yes.
it's gonna be pretty immense.
Yeah, so that's where I take that, and that's why I believe flat Earth is such an important topic, because I'm actually going to open that 2 Thessalonians, because I'm doing it on my computer and on my Bible sitting right here too. But it's an important thing, because it does say that those who don't believe the truth, that they're taking part in unrighteousness, and they're going to be damned. So to me, it's not a topic to joke around about, or a lot of people say that this is something that I'm theorizing, and I don't see it that way. But I'm not saying that I'm right or that anything, because this really has nothing to do with me. It's something that I'm pointing out that's already written in the Word of God. So
Yeah.
it says here in verse 11 and 12 of 2 Thessalonians 2, and for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. Now, I'm not talking about before this truth was revealed, because I believe in about 2015 that supernaturally the world was the Holy Spirit came down and gave us the truth. And that's my belief there. But so I think it's a very crucial truth for people to look into. So yeah, I mean, we could go over the landing rockets if you want to, and how that ties into this, which is interesting, and I could do it kind of briefly because
let's keep going. Yeah, let's definitely keep going. We got, we're about halfway through the second segment here, so I think we've got time.
And I gotta say too, maybe I can send you a note or something that you could maybe put in the description with all these references possibly too.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I actually, more importantly than the landing rockets, I just had something come over me and tell me that we should talk about one specific thing really quick. What is Satan or Lucifer or the devil? What is his plans throughout this world all the way till the end of days? What's his plan at the end of the days? It says in Revelation 12 that he deceived the whole world. And in Isaiah, this is so important. Isaiah 14, I'm just going to grab my Bible. I want to read 3 verses.
Yeah, if you think about that, how immense the world is, how many people there are, at least what we think we know, how many people there are, how big of a deception and how strong of a deception it would have to be able to fool essentially the whole world.
Exactly. I mean, to put that to a realistic terms to think about is really hard. It really is.
Yeah.
Because how could we all be living a life with careers and with all these things in a lie and not know it? Well, that's how our opposition is much more powerful than we previously thought, I think.
And if we put ourselves in Satan's shoes, so to speak, what is the grandest of lies?
Yep.
What would that be? And I think some people say, well, maybe it's that to hide God, that God doesn't exist. But I think there's even a bigger one, and we've talked about in the show here before, and that's that the biggest lie of all potentially is that Satan, he doesn't exist.
That's true. That's true. I mean, it's both of those combined. But
yeah.
So how does Satan going to accomplish that? Let me read Isaiah chapter 14, verses 12 through 14. It tells us how he's going to accomplish that. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. So I don't care if someone wants to say, oh, that's just symbolic and whatever. That's fine. They can say that. They can believe that, whatever. But I just read that I'll just kind of read them again. It says, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. So what he's saying there is NASA's mission. If you go to nasa.gov, and what's their mission? It's to explore the far reaches of outer space.
It's to ascend into the heavens and
that's exactly what they do.
And to set up, exalt their throne. What if you want to use
ISS.
that? Yeah. You want to basically dominate or populate or control above the heavens, above the clouds.
Yeah, and when we read in Isaiah chapter 66 verse 1, thus saith the Lord, the heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. Where's the house, or where's the house ye build for me? Where's my place of rest? I mean, that to me, the heaven is God's throne. The sky, that Jesus is going to come with the clouds of heaven, and Jesus ascended into the clouds of heaven. What I'm getting at is this is very literal and physical in a way. Not that we're maybe supposed to understand, the connection between the heavenly world and our physical material world, but there's something going on there that's really, I think that the Holy Spirit's trying to teach us about that connection. That's the differences between the two, because obviously when we look up at the moon, it looks like a rock or something, but when we read in the Bible, it's so much more than a rock. It's not necessarily even a place. Somebody could actually say, well, this is almost like what Mark Sargent says. It's brilliant. It's a planetarium. It's like a screen on the ceiling with lights.
Yeah.
And so, when they want to say, well, we can tangibly measure it now because we got spaceships. Well, that's a belief, because you don't go on the spaceship. There's a government that or whatever that's sending a spaceship up in there giving you a report. So you can believe that if you want. Fine.
That's one of the things I try to do at the absolute bare minimum. If I'm talking to kind of somebody new, is we're kind of getting into it. And not that it's becoming heated or confrontational, but I just want them to understand that what they think is true is this is their belief system. That they don't have the ability to verify it independently or themselves. At the end of the day, what they think is reality when it comes to this subject. I'm talking about, moon landings, NASA, space, Mars, and all the stuff that we get, shoved down our throats in the mainstream from a very early age, is that is part of their belief system.
Yep.
They're practicing faith in.
Yeah.
They're practicing faith in this case, a government agency that is telling that you have faith that they're telling you the truth. That's it. You have no choice but to either accept it or not accept it. You only have those two choices. There's no way you can go and say, I'm going to believe it until, or not going to believe it until I can prove it. You can't. So you either have to take it on faith or come up with something else.
Yeah. A friend of ours, Authentic Intent YouTube channel.
Josh.
Joshua.
Joshua Swift.
He says it in a brilliant way. He says, when he's bringing this up to people, he says, I've seen it on a lot of his later videos. He says to the people that are kind of opposing him, he says, well, you believe that a man walked on the moon, and I might believe that a man walked on water and lived a perfect life, but these are both beliefs that we have. And like he puts it out.
Good point.
Really
That's a great way to
there.
put it.
He says both of us are having a belief, even though we might believe the opposite thing, but it's still a belief.
Yeah, I'm not saying you're right. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. All I'm saying is you and I are practicing faith. We have a belief system that we have built, or how we define ourselves, how we operate our lives. It's built on a belief system.
Yes. We were born into it.
Exactly. Yeah. Anyway, I probably kind of derailed you there, but point well taken.
Yeah. So I mean, my main thing there was that literally NASA's their mission that they would have like on their business card, it is what Satan has written in his heart. So it's the exact same thing, to ascend into heaven and explore the far reaches of the universe or whatever.
Yeah, while you're talking, I'm going to nasa.gov. I want to see exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never looked. It'd be interesting to see what they.
Yeah, I'm going to about NASA. Let's just see what it says.
So there is another aspect that I'll bring up quick, is these landing rockets and how Elon Musk is obsessed with having these reusable rockets and successful, like they've been doing this. I'll just say this, that in the book of Revelation, chapter 12 and 13. The dragon is Satan. So what I'm trying to say is that when the dragon, in Revelation 12, it's the dragon, he's waiting to devour, the woman's child, and it's if I could stress for people to just try to take some of these things literally, when it says dragon is Satan, remember that our struggle is not against flesh and blood. It's against evil spirits, and they work in a different way than like physical material. They work through inspiration and some of these technologies, these rockets and these things. This is like wizardry. This is like
That's right.
this is like the God of Forces, a different kind of. It's not technology. I mean, it is, but it's not.
That's right. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that really got to me when I was kind of starting this journey of discovery was understanding how, speaking of NASA, how it's all based in the occult. It's, it's wizards. Yeah. These are people that are playing with these forces or, involved with these very dark forces. And that's what the basis was for, this organization being founded.
JPL and
yeah. So I went over the NASA. It's nasa.gov/career/our mission and values. So I'll just read this real quick. This is what it says on the website. The vision is from NASA, we reach for new heights and reveal the unknown for the benefit of humankind. And the mission, it says, drive advances in science, technology, aeronautics, and space exploration to enhance knowledge, education, innovation, economic vitality, and stewardship of Earth. I mean, it sounds so good, but when we kind of tie it into above the clouds, exalting your throne in the heavens.
Yep.
I could see some correlation there.
There's even named in the book of Revelation. It's named who that spirit of exploration is. It's Apollo or Apollyon in Revelation.
There you go.
And look at what NASA has, the Apollo missions, and Elon Musk says that SpaceX was formed to continue the dream of Apollo.
Yeah.
And not only that, like they're going to go to the moon now, they say, by 2024. You know what they're naming that mission? Artemis. That's Apollo's sister.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Why do they name these things Apollo? Why do they name these things Osiris Rex and Bennu and all these names of gods, false gods?
Yeah, go look at all the stuff that's been named, whether it's
all based
craters on the moon to, the planets and all this stuff. I mean, it's all in
deep wizardry.
Deep wizardry within the occult. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's in our society, it doesn't seem to be deep or occult, but it surely is. It always has been. In that way, but we've been born into a society that cheers that on, and we didn't. I mean, I'm not saying that everybody's bad because they do this. Everybody's deceived into
deception.
Doing it. That's what I believe.
And that's what the occult is. It's secret. It's what goes on behind closed doors. It's meant to be the hidden. It's meant to be, behind the veil, so to speak.
So hidden.
Exactly. Well, we've got about 3.5 minutes left here in the first hour here, Paul and the Plane live on Truth Frequency Radio. Let's kind of summarize, kind of wrap things up here, because you've pointed out some very interesting things. So, somebody that's hearing this today and is, kind of got now a bug in their ear to go and research this more and see what you've uncovered here and kind of tying Enoch and Revelation. What would be the logical next steps for somebody?
Well, I would say, the book of Daniel, chapters 7 and 8, have a lot of information in them. And like Daniel chapter 7, there's a story going on there that I believe we're living out. Daniel sees these 4 beasts, and Daniel gets kind of an interpretation of what he sees, and that someone in his vision tells him that these 4 great beasts that he just saw and described, that they were 4 kings that shall arise out of the earth. This is talking about at the end of days. And so there's 4 great beasts that are going to arise up out of the earth. And the first one, it had its wings clipped or plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth. The second one was told to arise. The third one had dominion of the host of heaven. And these are, to me, he was describing just the same things what a rocket would, or, you could describe a rocket. Stamping the residue with the feet of it, breaking in pieces. And then in Daniel chapter 8, verses 10, he finishes it off with a verse that even guys like Kent Hovind don't know what to do with. That this he-goat that he sees waxes great That means like he grows great, even to the host of heaven, and he casts the stars down. So, like a guy like Kent Hovind, I just did a video. I love that guy, but his cosmology cuts him off at that and leaves him wondering.
Yeah.
And that's where flat Earth makes me understand the Bible more than I did before, because it's all written on a certain world, you know.
Yeah, for sure. God bless Ken Hovind, because he was huge in my personal awakening. You know,
Me too, and still is.
Grew up in the public school system and had evolution shoved down my throat, and kind of came out of that really doubting the Bible and God and the creation story, and Ken Hovind really brought me back to.
He's a soldier. He's a
is.
soldier. You know what?
Just got to help him get his cosmology.
Yeah, a lot. Well, and that's another thing that I've learned too, is that I've learned to accept when people aren't willing to see that. I think that Kent will just he'll end up in the same place where everybody else that loves God, and he's going a different way is all.
Yeah.
I just think that we're given a little bit of a heads up, that we're bearing witness to a truth that we couldn't see before, and we're screaming it out to the world, and they're not all going to accept it as truth. But I believe also written in the book of Revelation is that people that don't accept it, they're going to have a chance to accept it kind of more in a scary way, and many of them will. A whole big multitude of innumerable multitude of people will accept this truth, I believe. So
thanks, Joe. We got out of time. Music's starting here, so any minutes or any second. Thanks again so much. It was awesome. We'll make sure we include the links there for people to check this out more. And Effed Up World on YouTube is your channel, and check it out, guys. Thanks again, Joe. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Why do the heathen rage, and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, Let us break their bands asunder, and cast away their cords from us. He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord shall have them in derision. Then shall he speak unto them in his wrath, and vex them in his sore displeasure. Yet have I set my king upon my holy hill of Zion. I will declare the decree. The Lord hath said unto me, Thou art my son, this day have I begotten thee. And when he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. And while they looked steadfastly toward heaven as he went up, behold, 2 men stood by them in white apparel, which also said, Ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? This same Jesus which is taken up from you into heaven shall so come in like manner as ye have seen him go into heaven. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick, and burn them throughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language, and this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth. And from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth.
And with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they received not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. Hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. It hath raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. Or they shall speak and say unto thee, Art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vials. The worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit.
And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon.
And we could resume the dream of Apollo. The goal of SpaceX really was to make as much progress as possible to advance rocket technology to the point where hopefully we can establish a colony on Mars. Dream of Apollo.
And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon.
Apollo.
Apollyon.
Apollo.
Apollyon.
And we could resume the dream of Apollo.
The angel of the bottomless pit.
Apollo.
Entering Earth's atmosphere at 25,000 miles per hour, the friction of air slows Orion considerably, while also subjecting it to temperatures of 5,000 degrees. With the Orion now at just 300 miles per
I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb.
Liftoff of the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket, launching Dragon to the International Space Station.
And he spake as a dragon. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men.
And stage 1 entry burn is underway. It's a burn of about 10 seconds.
Stage 1 entry burn shut down.
So that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men.
Falcon 9 first stage headed back toward Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, where it launched 6 minutes, 37 seconds ago.
Stage 2 performance nominal.
And he doeth great wonders, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. And the Lord God of the holy prophets sent his angel to show unto his servants the things which must shortly be done.
back at Landing Zone 1 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station.
LZ-1, the F9 has landed. Landing operators proceed.
Thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. And after these things, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. And he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Hell from beneath is moved for thee, to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. It hath raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. And I, John, saw these things and heard them. And when I had heard and seen, I fell down to worship before the feet of the angel which showed me these things. Then saith he unto me, See thou do it not, for I am thy fellow servant, and of thy brethren the prophets, and of them which keep the sayings of this book. When he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. And while they looked steadfastly toward heaven as he went up, behold, 2 men stood by them in white apparel, which also said, Ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? This same Jesus which is taken up from you into heaven shall so come in like manner as ye have seen him go into heaven.
Okay, I'm a flat earther.
It is photoshopped, but it's has to be.
Let's take a peek at the process.
It looks kind of flat.
NASA's Rob Simon made this.
Reinforces beliefs that you already had, because that is our fundamental tendency, to look for evidence that supports what we already believe. Look for evidence that supports what we already believe. It reinforced the importance of stewardship of our planet and carrying those responsible practices with us as we go out and explore.
So some of those are painted on.
It is photoshopped, but it's has to be.
Then
there was another layer to sort of simulate the atmosphere.
And then there's this little bright spot.
It's called the specular highlight. So it's the reflection of sunlight off of water.
Those are the pieces, but you can't just slap them all together.
It just didn't look realistic. It looks kind of flat. It looks kind of flat, or the clouds are sort of too see-through. So I just hit Command-Z a lot.
There's artistry to creating the world.
What I imagine it to be. Unfortunately, I'm not an astronaut. I've never been to space, but I've looked at these images over and over again.
Look for evidence that supports what we already believe.
Let's take a peek at the process. The toilet, which maybe 30 deposits. That's where your business goes. You want to be a good crew member, so you make sure that you wipe off the excess. Use a disinfectant wipe occasionally or often.
Often.
But I want to show you number 2. And there's a plastic liner in there
What I have here is green beans and mushrooms, and I do not like mushrooms, so I don't mind contributing this piece of food in the name of education. So pretend I ate this yesterday, and now it goes into there.
And it was a magical thing I'll just never forget. They don't twinkle. They just stare at you. They dare you to come and to explore, that we don't just see the stars, that we explore them, that we live there, that we grow into what we can be.
And what you're seeing here is a mirage.
On behalf of Ripley, Little Earth, myself, and our crew, welcome to the Crew Dragon. Congratulations to all of the teams who made yesterday's launch and today's docking a success. These amazing feats show us not how easy our mission is, but how capable we are of doing hard things. Welcome to the new era in spaceflight.
Actually, we're drinking the urine coming from these ones. This is actually a container that has urine in it, and we get that from the Russians to make this drinking water. We're drinking the urine coming from these ones.
Team Skeptic.
Peas in your Cheerios.
She said we went to the moon.
Roger.
You can tell it's real because it looks so fake, honestly.
Roger. Clear.
We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
No, now I'm not sure we went far enough out to encounter the Van Allen radiation belt. Maybe we did.
No. Naturally.
I don't know the distance to the Van Allen radiation belt.
Naturally.
And we used to, if we did, it wasn't a problem.
Naturally. Just as it passes over the Indian Ocean, we lose communication.
We destroyed that technology.
No. Naturally. We'll pass through the Van Allen belts.
Maybe we did.
An area of dangerous communication. Radiation.
See things that we don't know.
Naturally, radiation like this could harm the guidance systems, onboard computers, or other electronics on Orion.
This flash of light.
The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore.
Naturally, we have to pass through this danger zone twice.
No.
Once up and once back.
Space is not necessary.
But Orion has protection.
And it looked like it was on the moon. But
Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation.
I'm not sure.
Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
It's a painful process to build it back again.
Photoshop doesn't mean faked. You can take a real image and Photoshop it, and it would still be a real image afterwards. Photoshop it. That is real science. And a very odd video as well. It made no sense.
We have hundreds of thousands of drugs that are just about ready, drugs that nobody even thought of. Drugs, no president's ever pushed them like I pushed them either, to be honest with you.
I think we should go with a good old-fashioned public health scare.
Yeah. This horrible, invisible enemy.
We do have standards. This can't be a made-up disease. The only moral thing to do is release a deadly virus into the general public.
But I think, importantly, anybody right now and yesterday, anybody that needs a test gets a test. They're there. They have the test.
Well, we certainly believe in testing.
We're at war. In a true sense, we're at war. And we're fighting an invisible enemy.
Hey, Dad, this came for you in the mail. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. What the?
I am instructing the Small Business Administration to exercise available authority to provide capital and liquidity to firms affected by the coronavirus.
As you know, we've inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump.
You can tell it's real because it looks so fake, honestly.
Photoshop it.
A lot of us say that the Earth is flat, and it sounds crazy, and it sounds like that couldn't be true. Because we live on a globe. But let me try to explain a little bit from my point of view why I would say that the earth is flat. Why would someone at age, 5 years ago I was 38. Why did I start saying, hey, I think the earth is flat? And why did I buy some nice optics and telescopes and start researching and studying the sky and studying how far we can see on the surface of this earth? Why would I do that? A lot of people would say, Joe says the earth is flat because he wants to be special. He has a need to be different, or, wants to be looked at differently or something. And I totally get that. But what I would actually say myself is that it's not because I want anything. It's because I was called by Jesus to be a witness of his marvelous light and to give my testimony about what I bear witness to. That's why I say the earth is flat. And there's another reason too. Because of what Paul said in 2 Thessalonians 2, verses 10 through 12.
And with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they received not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness.
The people who don't receive the love of the truth will be damned. So it has nothing to do with Joe wanting to feel special or any of these other people that are saying these same things. We don't want to feel special. We love you and care about you and have learned supernaturally and seen supernaturally the truth in this world. And this world is full of lies. And the lies don't seem like lies because we were all born believing them. Our parents believed them. Their parents believed them. And now people have seen the truth. And it surrounds you in this world. It surrounds you. Water at its surface, when at rest, is flat, level, horizontal. It doesn't take a curved shape. That's only in your imagination. I have proved this in reality to myself, and I have my YouTube channel that I share publicly my observations. And maybe you haven't gone out to do these observations and see, to prove to yourself that if we were on a spinning ball, two things. It must curve, which it doesn't, and it's spinning, which it isn't. So we were born believing the opposite of our perceptions and the senses that we have, and we were born believing the opposite. And now it's ridiculed to actually observe the world that we live in and on, and to prove things about it. It's 2020, guys. We have the best equipment. We have the best communications. We have worldwide instant communication. We have the best optics that have ever been. It's 2020. We can know if the earth is a ball spinning in outer space or if it's a flat plane that God made. God's in heaven. Remember that. And also remember, this is my testimony. Jesus showed this to me. He opened my eyes, and I could see something when I turned, not when I turned, but around 37 or 38 years old. It changed. My eyes were open. My perceptions were used more clearly. I could see clearer. I comprehend things that I didn't even know existed. He showed me the truth, and I want you to see it because it's crucial for your eternal life. And that is my testimony.
I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that thou mayest be rich, and white raiment, that thou mayest be clothed, and that the shame of thy nakedness do not appear. And anoint thine eyes with eye salve, that thou mayest see. As many as I love, I rebuke and chasten. Be zealous therefore and repent. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come in to him, and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I also overcame, and am set down with my Father in his throne. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches.
NASA live. We don't live on a spinning ball. Earth is flat.
To hear them speak in our tongues the wonderful works of God.
And they were all amazed, and were in doubt, saying one to another,
What meaneth this?
Others, mocking, said,
These men are full of new wine.
But Peter, standing up with the 11, lifted up his voice and said unto them,
Ye men of Judea, and all ye that dwell at Jerusalem, be this known unto you, and hearken to my words. For these are not drunken, as ye suppose, seeing it is but the 3rd hour of the day. But this is that which was spoken by the prophet Joel. And it shall come to pass in the last days, saith God, I will pour out of my Spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. And on my servants and on my handmaidens I will pour out in those days of my Spirit, and they shall prophesy. And I will show wonders in heaven above, and signs in the earth beneath, blood and fire and vapor of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before that great and notable day of the Lord come. And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be saved.
Go ye into all the world, and preach the gospel to every creature. He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved, but he that believeth not shall be damned. And these signs shall follow them that believe. In my name shall they cast out devils. They shall speak with new tongues. They shall take up serpents. And if they drink any deadly thing, it shall not hurt them. They shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover.
So then after the Lord had spoken unto them, he was received up into heaven, and sat on the right hand of God. And they went forth, and preached everywhere, the Lord working with them, and confirming the word with signs following. Amen.
I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the ending, saith the Lord, which is, and which was, and which is to come, the Almighty. I am Alpha and Omega, the first and the last. Fear not, I am the first and the last. I am he that liveth and was dead, and behold, I am alive forevermore. Amen. And have the keys of hell and of death.
And the Spirit carried Enoch off to the highest heaven, and I saw there, in the middle of that light, something built of crystal stones, and in the middle of those stones tongues of living fire. And my spirit saw a circle of fire, which surrounded that house. From its four sides came rivers, full of living fire, and they surrounded that house. And round about were the seraphim, and the cherubim, and the Ophanim. These are they who do not sleep, but keep watch over the throne of his glory. And I saw angels who could not be counted, 1,000 thousands and 10,000 times 10,000 surrounding that house. And Michael and Raphael and Gabriel and Phanuel and the holy angels who are in the heavens above went in and out of that house. And Michael and Raphael and Gabriel and Phanuel and many holy angels without number came out from that house. And with them the head of days, his head white and pure like wool, and his garments indescribable.
So I'm going to tell you about how we measure dark matter, since it's invisible. What I have here is a cartoon of how we measure dark matter. In cosmology, we measure distances with a unit called Z. So we're here at Z of 0. We're the observer. We're 0 distance from ourselves. And here's our telescope. And we look at distant galaxies out in the universe. These distant galaxies that are of Z about 1. And that might sound like a small distance, but how we do it in cosmology is a distance of 1 is actually about halfway to the edge of the visible universe. So this is a very distant galaxy. In the absence of anything between us and that galaxy,
and God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters."
And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. And the evening and the morning were the second day.
the light from this galaxy would take a straight path to us. But we know from the work that Vera Rubin and others did that there's all this dark matter out there in the universe. And we're particularly sensitive with this technique to dark matter that's about halfway between us and the distant galaxy. Excuse me. One of the consequences of Einstein's theory of relativity, our theory of gravity, is that mass bends space. So what this means is the light, when it gets near this dark matter, won't take a straight path to us. That light is going to take a distorted and curved path. And I'm showing a very, very exaggerated version of that here, so it's easier to see. The consequence of this is that we will not see the galaxy as it actually is. We'll see a distorted version of the galaxy. So the dark matter between us, which we can't see, has distorted our image of this distant galaxy. And in doing so, it's telling us something about the dark matter. So I'm going to tell you with one more analogy I'm going to use another analogy for how we measure dark matter. This is a penny in a pool. That's the analogy here. And full disclosure, Alina and I don't actually have a pool. So you're looking at a penny in our bathtub, but penny in the pool sounds better. So in this analogy, the penny is like the distant galaxy. And the water in our bathtub, or the water in a pool, is like the dark matter. You don't see the water here, but you know it's there because you see the effect on the image of the penny. So what's happening is the light is coming to us from the penny, and it's taking some distorted path that changes our perceived shape of the penny so that we know the water is there. So that we know the water is there. In much the same way as the light from a distant galaxy comes to us, takes a distorted path through the dark matter, and we see a distorted image of that galaxy. But we don't see the dark matter. We don't see the water. So that we know the water is there. I could tell the density of the water and how much water there was. And that's going to tell us a lot about the properties of dark matter. That's how we're learning about dark matter now, and that's how we're going to learn about dark matter in the future.
He made darkness his secret place. His pavilion round about him were dark waters and thick clouds of the skies.
And behold, a door was opened in heaven. And the first voice which I heard was, as it were, of a trumpet talking with me, which said,
Come up hither, and I will show thee things which must be hereafter.
And immediately I was in the Spirit, and behold, a throne was set in heaven, and one sat on the throne. And he that sat was, to look upon, like a jasper, and a sardine stone. And there was a rainbow round about the throne, in sight like unto an emerald, like a jasper, and a sardine stone. And there was a rainbow round about the throne, in sight like unto an emerald, like a jasper, and a sardine stone. And there was a rainbow round about the throne, in sight like unto an emerald.
closely following the recovery of the Discoverer capsule at Cape Canaveral, another historic satellite is ready for launching. In this nose cone is packed the 100-foot balloon of Echo 1 to be carried into orbit by a Thor-able Delta rocket. It's only the second firing of this three-stage missile, but the 92-foot rocket performs flawlessly. This launching, closely followed by successful tests of Atlas and Polaris rockets, was a landmark in America's spectacular two-day display of progress in space research.
This is the satellite, a huge empty balloon, here shown while still in its hangar. The inflated balloon is 10 stories high, made of a strong, new aluminized plastic. Strong, yet only half as thick as the cellophane around a package of cigarettes. Strong, yet only half as thick as the cellophane around a package of cigarettes. Its aluminum coating gives it nearly 100% reflectivity. That balloon will soon be hurtling across the sky 1,000 miles high over North America. It will be bounced off a man-made satellite. If it works, it will be the first time voice has traveled from the Earth up to a man-made moon and back to Earth again.
This is President Eisenhower speaking. It is a great personal satisfaction to participate in this first experiment in communication.
President Eisenhower's voice was picked up loud and clear, making Echo a success.
Because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, and changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like to corruptible man, and to birds, and four-footed beasts, and creeping things. They became fools. They became fools. They became fools.
It's our privilege today to
change the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like to corruptible man, and to birds, and four-footed beasts, and creeping things.
We're tagging an asteroid.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Michelle Fowler from NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, COVID-19. And thank you for joining us. As you can see, I'm struggling with my mask here a little bit. COVID-19. As you can see, I'm struggling with my mask here a little bit. And if everything has gone right tonight, a little bit of Bennu will be coming back to Earth in 2023. So let's get one last visit with our social media desk. James, what's going on? This is one of these evenings where it's such a privilege and a pleasure to be working for NASA and for the idea of scientific exploration. So I'm Dr. Michelle Fowler. As you can see, I'm struggling with my mask here a little bit. We still have to deal with the challenges of COVID-19. So please bear with us today as we are working with our masks and trying to do this the best way we can. As you can see, I'm struggling with my mask here a little bit. COVID-19. For NASA, COVID-19. Bennu, COVID-19. COVID-19. For NASA, COVID-19. Bennu, COVID-19. Bennu, COVID-19. COVID-19. Bennu, COVID-19. Good night.
Get off this property. Get off the property. It's enough.
And in the synagogues ye shall be beaten, and ye shall be brought before rulers and kings for my sake, for a testimony against them. For a testimony against them. For a testimony against them. For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
And many chiefs of the stars shall transgress the order prescribed, and these shall alter their orbits and tasks, and not appear at the seasons prescribed to them. And the whole order of the stars shall be concealed from the sinners, and the thoughts of those on the earth shall err concerning them. And they shall be altered from all their ways, yea, they shall err and take them to be gods. And evil shall be multiplied upon them, and punishment shall come upon them so as to destroy all.
How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven.
I think both Jeff and I believe that it's important for the future to be a spacefaring civilization and ultimately be out there among the stars. And I think that's the exciting, inspiring future that I think certainly people in this room want, and anyone.
I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit.
When we could resume the dream of Apollo. The goal of SpaceX really was to make as much progress as possible to advance rocket technology to the point where hopefully we can establish a colony on Mars. Dream of Apollo.
And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon.
Apollo.
Apollyon.
Apollo.
Apollyon.
And we could resume the dream of Apollo.
The angel of the bottomless pit.
Apollo.
NASA is now embarking on a bold new program called Artemis. Artemis is the twin sister of Apollo,
which is the angel of the bottomless pit,
and the goddess of the moon in Greek mythology.
50 years ago, we went to the moon. We called it Apollo.
What many people don't know is that Apollo had a twin.
She was a woman named Artemis, goddess of the moon.
It is the stated policy
of this administration and the United States of America to return American astronauts to the moon within the next 5 years.
Our agency, NASA, is going to do everything in its power to meet that vision.
We're proud of what we do here, so come join NASA as we go forward to the moon and on to Mars.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt.
So deep it almost has a texture when you look at it. The weird part about it is space is so incredibly black, so incredibly dark. It's a bottomless pit of deep black, almost...
Even darkness which may be felt.
So deep it almost has a texture when you look at it.
And darkness was upon the face of the deep.
Wandering stars, to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever. Wandering stars.
Raging waves of the sea, foaming out their own shame. Wandering stars, to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever.
For if God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell, and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment, and spared not the old world, but saved Noah, the 8th person, a preacher of righteousness, bringing in the flood upon the world of the ungodly, and turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah into ashes, condemned them with an overthrow, making them an ensample unto those that after should live ungodly. And these are wells without water, clouds that are carried with a tempest, to whom the mist of darkness is reserved forever.
When you come in from a spacewalk, you're surrounded by the emptiness of space. It's sort of like the opposite of air. There's nothing there at all. When you quickly repressurize the hatch and you open up the hatch and you smell, what is that lingering smell from a place that used to be exposed to space? The smell in there is a little bit like that trace of a smell of gunpowder or burnt steak, or sort of like brimstone, like a witch has just been there. It's a cool, lingering trace of a smell. I think what it really is, brimstone, like sort of that metallic gunpowder-fired smell, that a witch has just been there. In truth, it smells a little bit like a witch has just been there. It smells a little bit like a burnt steak. Brimstone. It smells a little bit like a burnt steak. Brimstone. Like a witch has just been there. It's 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 brimstone. True.
Go forth and descend through all the heavens, and thou wilt descend to the firmament, and that world, to the angel in Sheol thou wilt descend. Heavens, and thou wilt descend to the firmament, and that world, to the angel in Sheol thou wilt descend. Heavens, and thou wilt descend to the firmament, and that world, to the angel in Sheol thou wilt descend. And we ascended to the firmament, I and he, and there I saw Samael and his hosts, and there was great fighting therein, and the angels of Satan were envying one another. And we ascended to the firmament, I and he, and there I saw Samael and his hosts, and there was great fighting therein, and the angels of Satan were envying one another.
For if God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell, and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved. For if God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell, and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment, not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell, and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment.
And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains unto darkness, unto the judgment of the great day. He hath reserved in everlasting chains. And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains unto darkness, unto the judgment of the great day.
But cast them down to hell.
Raging waves of the sea, foaming out their own shame. Wandering stars, wandering stars, to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever. And the blackness of darkness forever. Wandering stars, to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever.
and the entire law of the stars will be closed to the sinners, and the thoughts of those who dwell upon the earth will go astray over them, and they will turn from all their ways and will go astray, and will think them gods.
Wandering stars.
And I saw a burning fire in what was in all the mountains, and I saw a place there beyond the great earth. There the waters gathered together, and I saw a deep chasm of the earth with pillars of heavenly fire, and I saw among them fiery pillars of heaven, which were falling, and as regards both height and depth they were immeasurable.
But cast them down to hell.
And beyond this chasm I saw a place, and it had neither the sky above it, nor the foundation of earth below it. There was no water on it, and no birds, but it was a desert place. And a terrible thing I saw there, 7 stars like great burning mountains.
Wandering stars.
And like a spirit questioning me, the angel said, "This is the place of the end of heaven and earth. This is the prison for the stars of heaven and the host of heaven. And the stars which roll over the fire, these are the ones which transgress the command of the Lord."
Wandering stars.
From the beginning of their rising, because they did not come out at their proper times. And he was angry with them, and bound them until the time of the consummation of their sin, in the year of mystery. And Uriel said to me, "The spirits of the angels who were promiscuous with women will stand here."
Blackness of darkness.
And they, assuming many forms,
wandering stars,
made men unclean, and will lead men astray so that they sacrifice to demons as gods.
Wandering stars.
And they will stand there until the great judgment, on which they will be judged, so that an end will be made of them.
Whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever. The blackness of darkness forever. Well, I believe he's clearly talking about him. Because in the Bible, there's a place where there's darkness forever. And it's called hell and the lake of fire.
And realize that we're on this very special place, and this precious island in this abyss of darkness, 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 in this abyss of darkness.
The weird part about it is space is so incredibly black, so incredibly dark. It's a bottomless pit of deep black, almost so deep it almost has a texture when you look at it.
It's wandering stars, to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever.
And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will shew unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is. And the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. Even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition.
Get off this property. Get off the property. That's enough.
And in the synagogues ye shall be beaten, and ye shall be brought before rulers and kings for my sake, for a testimony against them. For a testimony against them. For a testimony against them. For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
And many chiefs of the stars shall transgress the order prescribed, and these shall alter their orbits and tasks, and not appear at the seasons prescribed to them. And the whole order of the stars shall be concealed from the sinners, and the thoughts of those on the earth shall err concerning them. And they shall be altered from all their ways, yea, they shall err and take them to be gods. And evil shall be multiplied upon them, and punishment shall come upon them so as to destroy all.
How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven.
I think both Jeff and I believe that it's important for the future to be a spacefaring civilization and out there, ultimately be out there among the stars. And I think that's the exciting, inspiring future that I think certainly people in this room want, and anyone.
I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit.
When we could resume the dream of Apollo. The goal of SpaceX really was to make as much progress as possible to advance rocket technology to the point where hopefully we can establish a colony on Mars. Dream of Apollo.
And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon.
Apollo.
Apollyon.
Apollo.
Apollyon.
And we could resume the dream of Apollo.
The angel of the bottomless pit.
Apollo.
NASA is now embarking on a bold new program called Artemis. Artemis is the twin sister of Apollo,
which is the angel of the bottomless pit,
and the goddess of the moon in Greek mythology.
50 years ago, we went to the moon. We called it Apollo.
What many people don't know is that Apollo had a twin.
She was a woman named Artemis, goddess of the moon.
It is the stated policy of this administration and the United States of America to return American astronauts to the moon within the next 5 years.
Our agency, NASA, is going to do everything in its power to meet that vision.
We're proud of what we do here, so come join NASA as we go forward to the moon and on to Mars.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt.
So deep it almost has a texture when you look at it. The weird part about it is space is so incredibly black, so incredibly dark. It's a bottomless pit of deep black, almost...
Even darkness which may be felt.
So deep it almost has a texture when you look at it.
And darkness was upon the face of the deep.
Wandering stars, to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever. Wandering stars.
Raging waves of the sea, foaming out their own shame. Wandering stars, to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever.
For if God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell, and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment, and spared not the old world, but saved Noah, the 8th person, a preacher of righteousness, bringing in the flood upon the world of the ungodly, and turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah into ashes, condemned them with an overthrow, making them an ensample unto those that after should live ungodly. And these are wells without water, clouds that are carried with a tempest, to whom the mist of darkness is reserved forever.
When you come in from a spacewalk, you're surrounded by the emptiness of space. It's sort of like the opposite of air. There's nothing there at all. When you quickly repressurize the hatch and you open up the hatch and you smell, what is that lingering smell from a place that used to be exposed to space? The smell in there is a little bit like that trace of a smell of gunpowder or burnt steak, or sort of like brimstone, like a...
Hey everybody, Pastor Steven Anderson here from Faithful Word Baptist Church in Tempe, Arizona. Every single day, my YouTube channel is just getting bombarded with ridiculous comments from flat earthers. And this video is just going to give one simple proof that just completely destroys the flat earth nonsense. And it's something that all of us can see and observe for ourselves. And that is satellites orbiting the earth. I'm talking about man-made satellites that orbit the Earth. You can go outside and literally see them with your naked eye. You can even see the International Space Station with your naked eye under certain conditions. And I personally have seen it many years ago going overhead.
And of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was, and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is.
You can even see the International Space Station with your naked eye under certain conditions, and I personally have seen it many years ago going overhead.
Out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat and great authority. And I saw one of his heads, as it were, wounded to death. And his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying,
Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?
Conditions, and I personally have seen it.
When they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is.
And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months.
Elon Musk, pleasure to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
So this is the Dragon that goes up into space and is going to go up on Monday, correct?
Yeah, that's our Dragon spacecraft, or version 1, which is capable of taking cargo to and from the space station.
And most of what you do now is send satellites up into space, right? That's how you pay the bills.
Exactly.
Now, how is it that these satellites do not fall out of the sky? How else do you explain these things just perpetually going around the sky?
I'm up here on the space station, traveling around the world down below. And this is not a place to explore. It's not space. It's darkness. Darkness. Okay, no big deal. Darkness, we knew that. Everybody knows that. But what am I doing right now in this darkness? I'm free falling, right? That's why I'm floating here. 0G. Because I'm free falling around the curvature of the earth. But the curvature is never there when you're on the earth. I'm free falling forever into darkness. I'm free falling continuously, perpetually, forever. This is the bottomless pit.
It's not a lack of gravity that's causing them to float around like that. It's actually free fall. It's the fact that they're in a continual state of falling.
Welcome to our space station live stream from space, where we continually fall into a dark abyss of darkness. Wherefore, as I live, saith the Lord God, surely because thou hast defiled my sanctuary,
satellites,
with all thy detestable things,
satellites,
and with all thine abominations,
International Space Station,
Therefore will I also diminish thee, neither shall mine eye spare, neither will I have any pity. In Psalm 102, verse 19, it says, For he hath looked down from the height of his sanctuary, from heaven did the Lord behold the earth. And then Psalm 150, verse 1 says, Praise ye the Lord. Praise God in his sanctuary. Praise him in the firmament of his power. What is one way that we as human beings on the earth could pollute or defile God's sanctuary?
So if you were in the International Space Station, because you're just free-falling all the time, you and the space station are free-falling, that's what allows them to float around and experience the feeling of weightlessness.
This is the bottomless pit.
And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men.
Hey everybody, Pastor Steven Anderson here from Faith for War Baptist Church in Tempe, Arizona. Every single day, my YouTube channel is just getting bombarded with ridiculous comments from flat earthers. And this video is just going to give one simple proof that just completely destroys the flat earth nonsense. And it's something that all of us can see and observe for ourselves. And that is satellites orbiting the earth. I'm talking about man-made satellites that orbit the earth. You can go outside and literally see them with your naked eye. You can even see the International Space Station with your naked eye under certain conditions. And I personally have seen it many years ago, going overhead.
And of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was, and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is.
You can even see the International Space Station with your naked eye under certain conditions. And I personally have seen it many years ago, going overhead.
Out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat and great authority. And I saw one of his heads, as it were, wounded to death. And his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying,
Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?
Conditions, and I personally have seen it.
When they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is.
And there was given unto him a mouth, speaking great things and blasphemies. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months.
Elon Musk, pleasure to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
So this is the Dragon that goes up into space and is going to go up on Monday, correct?
Yeah, that's our Dragon spacecraft, or version 1, which is capable of taking cargo to and from the space station.
And most of what you do now is send satellites up into space, right? That's how you pay the bills.
Exactly.
Now, how is it that these satellites do not fall out of the sky? How else do you explain these things just perpetually going around the sky?
I'm up here on the space station, traveling around the world, down below. And this is not a place to explore. It's not space. It's darkness. Darkness. Okay, no big deal. Darkness, we knew that. Everybody knows that. But what am I doing right now in this darkness? I'm free falling, right? That's why I'm floating here. 0G. Because I'm free falling around the curvature of the earth. But the curvature is never there when you're on the earth. I'm free falling forever into darkness.